Welcome to the Public Information Open House meeting for the Columbus South Bridges Project. This presentation will provide information regarding the ongoing study by the Nebraska Department of Transportation to determine a solution to improve the crossing of U.S. Highway 81 and U.S. Highway 30 over the Loup River in Columbus, Nebraska. The purpose of this meeting is to share information about the ongoing study and progress made to date, including meetings conducted with stakeholders, development and evaluation of alternatives, the selection of a preliminary preferred alternative, and the next steps in the study process. After you have taken some time to review this information, and if attending the meeting in person, had the opportunity to talk to study team members, we want to hear your comments and input. There are many ways you can submit input described later in this presentation. All comments are requested by November 24th, 2021 to be included in the project record. The study process was initiated in 2018 with the completion of topographic and environmental field surveys. Work on the project was put on hold in early 2019 while NDOT focused their efforts on repairs and advancing emergency projects in response to the Missouri River flood event. When work on the project resumed in 2020, meetings, both in person and virtually, were conducted with stakeholders in July and October. Stakeholders that participated included elected officials, business owners, state and federal agency representatives, and members of the local historical society. Which brings us to today, November 9, 2021, and the public information meeting to present the preliminary preferred alternative. After today's meeting, NDOT will complete remaining studies, coordinate with state and federal agencies, and complete the preliminary design of the preferred alternative with the anticipated issuance of an environmental decision approving the project. NDOT will be able to proceed with final design and right-of-way acquisition depending on funding availability. The project can then be programmed for construction depending on funding. The Columbus South Bridges Project focuses on the existing crossing of US 81 and US 30 over the Loup River near the southern city limits of Columbus in Platte County. The project area roughly extends from 8th Street on the north to 9th Street and US 30 on the south to accommodate associated roadway, utility, and property access improvements. The US 81 US 30 corridor and river crossing in the study area is bounded by Pawnee Park, containing the Andrew Jackson Higgins National Memorial on the west, and by several hotels, convention centers, and commercial businesses on the east. Pawnee Park and the Pawnee Park Trail occupy land east and west of the highway and extend under the existing crossing. The Valley Water Trail, a recreational trail designated along the Loup River, begins east of the highway crossing and connects to the water trail system downstream along the Platte River. The Loup River crosses through the middle of the study area, bounded by flood control levees along both banks managed by the City of Columbus. The area immediately south of the river is heavily wooded and quickly transitions to an area of single-family homes just north of 9th Street. The existing US 81, US 30 Loup River crossing is comprised of the following components: the Southbound or Columbus Loup River Bridge, the Northbound Bridge, and the underpass. The Columbus Loup River Bridge was constructed in 1932 and 1933 as a Parker through truss bridge, one of the longest trussed crossings developed at the time, and still the longest vehicular truss bridge in the state, aside from structures crossing the Missouri River. The bridge represents a culmination of truss design within Nebraska and was listed on the National Register of Historical Places in 1992. The Northbound Bridge was constructed in 1984 and is not considered eligible for listing on the National Register. The underpass was constructed in 1931 to support the approach roadway to the Columbus Loup River Bridge. It was extended to the east in 1984 to support the approach roadway to the Northbound Bridge. The underpass allows Pawnee Park Drive to pass under the crossing from east to west. Due to alterations made over time, the underpass is not eligible for listing on the National Register. The purpose of the proposed project is to facilitate the safe movement of people and goods along US 81, US 30 through Columbus while improving mobility, connectivity, and accessibility across the Loup River. The transportation needs to be satisfied by the proposed project include maintaining infrastructure by addressing the structural deficiencies along with the physical condition of both the historic and non-historic age components and improving the service life of the crossing. Maintaining a reliable transportation linkage across the Loup River, including minimizing closures to facilitate repairs and improving the ability of the crossing to accommodate current and future travel demand. And lastly, improving the operational performance of the crossing by improving traffic operations over the no-build condition. 3 categories of alternatives were studied as possible solutions to improve the river crossing. The first is a no-build alternative. This would leave the crossing as it is today. The no-build alternative serves as the baseline the other alternatives are measured or compared against. The environmental review process requires that the no-build or no-action alternative be considered. The second is a rehabilitation. The rehabilitation alternative would repair or replace key components of the historic Columbus Loup River Bridge in an attempt to extend its useful life. This alternative would not make repairs to the Northbound Bridge or the underpass. The final alternative is a build alternative. The 3 build alternatives developed would build a new bridge to replace the Columbus Loup River Bridge, meaning the historic bridge would be removed. The location of the new bridge varies by alternative and will be described in more detail later in this presentation. Each build alternative would include repairs to the Northbound Bridge and the underpass. The no-build and rehabilitation alternatives would leave this arrangement of the Loup River crossing as it exists today. If looking north at the river crossing, the Columbus Loup River Bridge would remain on the left or west, and the Northbound Bridge on the right or east. The existing sidewalk would remain along the east side of the Northbound Bridge. The no-build alternative would leave the crossing as it is today. No repairs or improvements would be made to the Columbus Loup River Bridge, the Northbound Bridge, or the underpass other than any programmed maintenance for the Northbound Bridge or underpass. If the Columbus Loup River Bridge would be damaged, repairs would be promptly made. Because of its continued deteriorating condition, eventually, the Columbus Loup River Bridge would need to be closed to traffic. As previously described, the rehabilitation alternative would repair or replace key components to the Columbus Loup River Bridge in an attempt to extend its useful life. 3 levels of rehabilitation were considered based on the current condition of the bridge. The diagram and table illustrate the structural deficiencies of the Columbus Loup River Bridge as reported in the 2020 inspection. In addition to corrosion of many bridge components caused by the age of the bridge and the long-term exposure to rain, snow, and de-icing compounds, the bridge also does not meet current design standards described in the top portion of the table. The bridge deck and travel lanes are too narrow, the vertical clearance is too low, and the age and poor condition of the bridge have led to a weight restriction being posted. The photos on this and the following slides illustrate some of the deficiencies and repairs that need to be made. Due to the age of the bridge and its continued exposure to the elements, steel members have corroded and rusted, and the deck has been damaged. In addition to structural issues, the protective paint applied to the steel has also deteriorated in many locations. The concrete abutments that support the ends of the bridge near the bank also show signs of deterioration caused by drainage issues, flooding, freeze and thaw cycles, and soil settling. Rehabilitation Option 1 would repair the most critical deficiencies in an effort to extend the useful life of the bridge approximately 10 years. Repairs would be made to many key steel members, areas of the bridge would be repainted, and areas of abutment 1 and the bridge deck and railing would be repaired and patched. Rehabilitation Option 1 would cost approximately $3.5 to $4 million and require the bridge to be closed for approximately 9 months. Two-way traffic would be carried on the northbound bridge during the repair period. The effectiveness of the repairs would need to be evaluated in 10 years or sooner. This option would not address the design deficiencies of the bridge, narrow travel lanes, low vertical clearance, and reduced load posting. Rehabilitation Option 2 would address other repairs that may become critical in an effort to extend the useful life of the bridge by approximately 15 years. Additional repairs would be made to the floor beams, additional areas of the bridge would be repainted, concrete spalling on the piers would be patched, and defective areas of the bridge deck would be repaired. Rehabilitation Option 2 would cost approximately $6 to $6.5 million and require the bridge to be closed for approximately 12 months. Two-way traffic would be carried on the northbound bridge during the repair period. The effectiveness of the repairs would need to be reevaluated in 15 years or sooner. This option would not address the design deficiencies of the bridge, narrow travel lanes, low vertical clearance, and reduced load posting. Rehabilitation Option 3 would make additional repairs in an effort to extend the useful life of the bridge by approximately 20 years. The focus of this level of rehabilitation would be replacement of the bridge deck and railing. This level of repair, in addition to the other components, would negatively affect the attributes of the Columbus Loup River Bridge that allowed it to be listed on the National Register. This modification would result in an adverse effect under Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act. This act will be discussed in greater detail later in this presentation. Rehabilitation Option 3 would cost approximately $13.5 to $14 million and requires the bridge to be closed for approximately 18 months. Two-way traffic would be carried on the northbound bridge during the repair period. The effectiveness of the repairs would need to be evaluated in 20 years or sooner. This option would not address the design deficiencies of the bridge, narrow travel lanes, low vertical clearance, and reduced load posting. The three build alternatives considered include the purple alternative that would build a new bridge on the existing alignment of the Columbus Loup River Bridge, the orange alternative that would build a new bridge on an alignment west of the Columbus Loup River Bridge, and the blue alternative that would build a new bridge on an alignment east of the existing northbound bridge. All three build alternatives would remove the Columbus Loup River Bridge, resulting in an adverse effect to a historic resource. They would all include improvements to the northbound bridge and the underpass, and additional roadway improvements north and south of the river crossing. The configuration of the river crossing for each build alternative is illustrated here. All build alternatives would include a new bridge, 28 feet wide, carrying 2 travel lanes, similar in width to those on the existing northbound bridge. No additional bicycle or pedestrian accommodations are planned on the new bridge. As described previously, the purple alternative would remove the Columbus Loup River Bridge and construct the new bridge on its current alignment. The orange alternative would construct the new bridge to the west of the Columbus Loup River Bridge, far left on the diagram, and once the new bridge is completed, the Columbus Loup River Bridge would be removed. And the blue alternative would construct a new bridge to the east of the northbound bridge, far right on the diagram, and once the new bridge is completed, the Columbus Loup River Bridge would be removed. The purple alternative would require the Columbus Loup River Bridge to be removed before construction of the new bridge begins. Right-of-way would be needed from Pawnee Park to accommodate the approach roadway improvements and utility relocations. Temporary closure of the Pawnee Park Trail would occur during construction, and access to the Valley Water Trail may be temporarily interrupted during construction. This alternative would minimize impacts to Pawnee Park compared to the other build alternatives. The purple alternative is estimated to cost approximately $13.5 to $15 million and provide a structure with a 75 to 100 year design life. Construction is anticipated to take 1.5 construction seasons, including demolition of the existing bridge. The northbound bridge would be converted to two-way traffic during the duration of construction. The orange alternative would build the new bridge on an alignment west of the Columbus Loup River Bridge. The existing bridge would remain in service during construction and be removed once the new bridge and roadway connections are complete. Right-of-way would be needed from Pawnee Park to accommodate the approach roadway improvements, provide access to the new bridge construction site, and for utility relocations. Temporary closure of the Pawnee Park Trail would occur during construction, and access to the Valley Water Trail may be temporarily interrupted during construction. Forest habitat adjacent to the highway and south of the river would be cleared to facilitate construction. The orange alternative is estimated to cost approximately $16 million to $18 million and provide a structure with a 75 to 100 year design life. Construction is anticipated to take 1.5 construction seasons, including demolition of the existing bridge. The blue alternative would build the new bridge on an alignment east of the existing northbound bridge. The Columbus Loup River Bridge would remain in service during construction and be removed once the new bridge and roadway connections are complete. Right-of-way would be needed from Pawnee Park to accommodate the approach roadway improvements and utility relocations. Temporary closure of the Pawnee Park Trail would occur during construction, and access to the Valley Water Trail may be temporarily interrupted during construction. Forest habitat adjacent to the highway and south of the river would be cleared to facilitate construction. This alternative would affect the entrance to the two hotels and convention centers north of the crossing and remove parking spaces closest to the highway. The blue alternative is estimated to cost approximately $16 million to $18 million and provide a structure with a 75 to 100 year design life. Construction is anticipated to take 1.5 construction seasons, including demolition of the existing bridge. A two-step screening and evaluation process was used to funnel the study process down from an initial range of alternatives to selection of a preliminary preferred alternative. The first step in the screening process was to compare the initial range of alternatives to the purpose and need. The initial range of alternatives were screened against the purpose and need. The colored balls indicate how well the alternative satisfied the need. Green indicating fully satisfied, yellow indicating partially satisfied, and red indicating not satisfied. Based on the analysis conducted, the rehabilitation alternative, options 1, 2, and 3, would not satisfy the purpose and need. It would not sufficiently correct the structural deficiencies nor adequately extend the useful life of the Columbus Loup River Bridge. The time needed to complete the repairs would create long traffic closure windows, and the repairs would not address the design deficiencies of the crossing, narrow travel lanes, low vertical clearance, and weight restrictions that negatively affect the ability of the crossing to serve current and forecasted traffic volumes and vehicle mix. Rehabilitation would not improve the traffic operations of the crossing over that no-build condition. For these reasons, the rehabilitation alternative was removed from further consideration. The second step evaluated the reasonable alternatives, those alternatives that satisfy the purpose and need, based on a variety of criteria, including estimated construction costs, potential impacts to sensitive resources, the need for mitigation, and input received from stakeholders and the public. This quantitative evaluation was completed to allow the build alternatives to be compared based on the available data to support the identification of the preliminary preferred alternative. The study process involves consideration of several issues from engineering and traffic analysis to natural resources and community demographics. There are two issues that require special attention for the Columbus South Bridges project, and they involved historic resources and public parks. Because the proposed improvements would remove the Columbus Loup River Bridge, a historic resource listed on the National Register, the Nebraska Department of Transportation must demonstrate compliance with the process outlined under Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act. The National Historic Preservation Act requires federal agencies to consider the effects of their actions on historic properties that can include structures such as bridges that are listed or considered eligible for listing on the National Register. Under NHPA assignment, the Nebraska Department of Transportation has assumed legal responsibility for the review and approval of projects classified as categorical exclusions, including responsibilities under Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act and Section 4F from Federal Highway Administration under the Memorandum of Understanding executed on September 5, 2018, between the two agencies. The Nebraska Department of Transportation has done the following to comply with the Section 106 process. Initiated the review process with agencies, stakeholders, and the public. Identified historic properties for this project, that is the Columbus Loup River Bridge. Assessed the adverse effects of the project on the historic resource. The preliminary preferred alternative and the other two build alternatives considered would remove the historic bridge, resulting in an adverse effect. And finally, consider ways to mitigate the adverse effect. The Nebraska Department of Transportation continues to coordinate with stakeholders and agencies that expressed an interest in the historic aspects of the project to obtain their input on possible mitigation strategies. The Nebraska Department of Transportation would also like input from the public on what you feel would be appropriate mitigation for replacement of the Columbus Loup River Bridge. Related to Section 106, because it also protects historic properties, is Section 4F of the Department of Transportation Act. Under Section 4F, federal transportation agencies cannot approve a project that results in the use of land from a publicly owned park or historic property unless there is no feasible or prudent alternative to the use, and the project includes all possible planning to minimize harm, including mitigation, or the use of the property has a minor de minimis impact on the protected resource. Because this project requires land from Pawnee Park, it would result in the temporary closure of the Pawnee Park Trail during construction and the possible temporary disruption of access to the Valley Water Trail, and, as mentioned before, results in the removal of a National Register listed bridge. The Nebraska Department of Transportation must consider mitigation efforts to offset the permanent and temporary use of the public park and recreational properties, in addition to the adverse effect on the historic bridge. The Nebraska Department of Transportation requests the public input on potential mitigation for impacts to the park and trail resources. All three build alternatives would remove the National Register of Historic Places listed bridge, requiring mitigation under Section 106. All three build alternatives would also require the conversion of parkland to road right-of-way, with the purple alternative requiring the least amount of land from Pawnee Park. All three alternatives would also require that the Pawnee Park Trail be temporarily closed during construction, and notices would be provided to possible water trail users that construction would be occurring to the west of the water trail area. The quantitative evaluation compares the construction cost and useful life, engineering attributes, and potential impacts of the build alternatives as summarized on the previous slides. Based on the analysis conducted to date, and in consideration of the input received from stakeholders, the Nebraska Department of Transportation has selected the purple alternative as the preliminary preferred alternative. The purple alternative would construct a new bridge on the alignment of the existing Columbus Loup River Bridge, replacing the existing Southbound bridge. It would also make improvements to the existing Northbound bridge and the underpass. Sections of US 81, US 30 approaching the crossing would also be improved to accommodate the updated crossing. The purple alternative satisfies the purpose and need and would result in the least impacts to Pawnee Park, the Pawnee Park Trail, sensitive resources in the project area, and avoid the loss of parking to the hotels along the east side of the highway. Following today's meeting, the Nebraska Department of Transportation will review and consider the input received as they complete the preliminary design for the project and conduct additional studies and coordinate with agencies to develop the documentation required under the National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA, to issue their environmental decision. In anticipation of Nebraska Department of Transportation approving the project, they will be able to proceed with final design and right-of-way acquisition depending on funding availability. The project would then be programmed for construction once funding is identified. The Nebraska Department of Transportation wants to hear from you. Besides talking with study team members at today's meeting, there are 3 ways you can provide your comments and input. You can go to our website and submit a comment online through ndot.info/31983. You can email us at tonybuie@nebraska.gov. That is tony.bui@nebraska.gov. Or you can send us some U.S. mail. The mail should be addressed to Tony Buie, TonyBui, NDOT Public Involvement, P.O. Box 94759, Lincoln, Nebraska 68509-4759. All comments are requested by November 24th, 2021 to be included in the project record. Thank you for your interest in the Columbus South Bridges project. Please always drive safely and wear your seatbelt.